Welcome everybody to Better World Day. I'm Mark Majors.
I'm Tom Packer, and we are so excited to have you here today to join us. This is year number 9 of this adventure to help nonprofits and others in general get a sense of some of the different technology trends. We wanted to highlight a couple things. We want to definitely thank each and every one of you for finding out about this and taking the risk to learn from some key experts across a wide array of inclusive design. I want to give a special shout out to Workman Circle Educational Center. I serve on the board. Their Social Action Committee is one of the elements here. We have our chair, Neil Grossman, is joining us today, and we can talk a little bit about what that's about, but I wanted to introduce yourself.
No problem. I'm called disclaimer. Now, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware, you probably heard earlier that we're recording the session. We will be posting this later to YouTube so others can enjoy it. For many years during the pandemic, it's actually turned into a virtual conference, and we heard from some of our attendees that we wanted to meet again in person. So that's why we're here. And once again, I'm Mark Majors. I've been involved with Todd. We actually met each other back in improv class back in the day. And we were talking, wouldn't it be nice if we actually held an event that would be centered around helping nonprofits and educators learn about the latest technology because they're too busy with their cause. And that's how this started. So that's why we're excited to have our keynote speaker and our panelists here today. And without you, we would not be able to pull this off. So let's give everyone here. Give yourself a nice big round of applause. Come on.
Actually, yes, thank you.
There you go.
So I did want to give a kind of general idea of how our approach is to what we want to do. And part of it is to help people become comfortable with technology. One of the issues is that historically nonprofits have often lagged behind corporations and other entities developing technological solutions. And we wanted to flip that narrative. We wanted to help folks recognize that nonprofit organizations can be leaders, both in terms of developing technologies that can help them build capacity for fundraising or hiring and retaining staff and volunteers, but also in terms of delivering on their missions. And it's with that lens that we'd love to hear from you as you're going through this today or afterwards, what kind of lessons you've learned on inclusive design that you can apply directly to the work of the nonprofits you volunteer for or you serve on the board and so forth. But I wanted to mention briefly about Workman Circle is that, okay, so we have some super awesome folks that came together to make this happen. So special thanks to the Cleveland Site Center for having our keynote speaker because we worked with the Cleveland Site Center before.
That's correct. So want to thank the Cleveland Site Center, Leading Hands for Technology, which is a technology blog, also Workman Circle. And then we've had opportunity to have some PSAs on 107.3 Alternative Cleveland. So if you have any alternative rockers out there, maybe you heard us on that station. And then the Cleveland Street Bar, we are going to be hosting a tour of their interactive media lab later after the panel discussion. So hope you stick around for that. And also Cool Cleveland, and then Laytonia, who has helped us put together our pamphlet and brochure over the years.
And we didn't have a chance to put the logo up for this one, but a special shout out to Kent State University's Design Innovation Hub, Jared Campbell and his colleague Chris Holt, who developed the keychains for Better World Day with Braille on the back, and a special gift for the speakers that we'll have afterwards. So just briefly about Workman Circle. We're a century-old organization, secular Jewish organization of folks that came to the U.S. and wanted help finding their place here. So typically folks that were trade workers and so forth. So as an organization, two broad focuses. One is supporting and sustaining Yiddish language and culture. Yiddish is the language of communities in Europe historically. And then also social action. The idea being that as folks came to the U.S. to participate actively in the society that we're in. And so it's with that lens, the mission of the organization in Yiddish is for Schönerer und bessere Welt, for a better and more beautiful world. for a better and more beautiful world.
Sounds familiar.
Exactly. And it's with that lens that we wanted to have this, these kinds of annual events. But there's a term in Yiddish. So like you practice this, it's Hamisha. You say that? Hamisha. Hamisha. Hamisha means welcoming. So like if you have a Hamisha home, it means like you create an environment that's welcoming for strangers, friends, and family alike. And that's how we want technology and your experience with technology to be. We want it to be Hamisha, welcoming. So often technology is presented in ways that are frightening or a barrier, or people feel ashamed to ask questions. And that is not what we're about here today or in our work. So please, as you listen today, if you have questions to engage with our panelists, we want this to be a conversation where you feel comfortable. We want this to be a Hamisha environment. Thank you.
And that leads right into our topic, because inclusive design is like a welcome mat. So making sure that your audience is welcome, that they feel comfortable. So very good tie-in to today's topic as well. That's not planned at all.
Yeah.
So, but we wanted to let you know, got the schedule on the board. So first in a few moments, we're going to welcome our keynote speaker, Alicia Howardson, up. Then we're going to directly after that have a panel presentation. Now we do have Q&A, so I'm going to start the questions. But if you have specific questions for our panel and you came here today, please raise your hand and bring over a microphone. We are recording this, so we understand your voice can carry, but we do want to make sure everyone sees notice on recorded. Then after that, if you want to stick around, we're going to get a tour of that interactive media lab, which is right down the way. And once again, help yourself. There's plenty of food in the back. If you didn't get a pen or a keychain, please do that. And Todd, any other closing words before we bring up our keynote?
Just a little bit on the logistics. You're welcome to come in and out as you need. Like Mark said, fruit, granola bars, waters, and so forth on the back. Our facility here generously has some hot coffee and tea just outside to the left. And down the hallway, as you came in, are the restrooms. And
if you're lucky, Todd may play his harmonica during the break.
only master DJ Mark.
Would you like me to accompany with a beat behind your harmonica at some point?
Certainly, but we may need some help from the audience,
That's right.
as they say.
Sounds like we might be running into an improv sketch.
Possibly. So
Stay tuned.
stay tuned to that.
So at this time, we would like to welcome up to our front stage here in front of us. So if everyone could please give a nice big round of applause. Leading us tonight in our keynote presentation is Alicia Howardson from the Legal Science Center.
Hello, everyone.
Wow.
Hello. How is everyone this evening?
Pretty
Great, good. Great. Mark, could you put the slide up?
Sure.
So,
I'm almost there.
okay.
And it is now up.
Right. So, can all of you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, so, somebody shared this slide with me, and I think it's the perfect reason why we need universal design. I think the photo says it all. It's a cartoon of, I did have alt text on it, Jen, but we took it off. So alt text is something that would describe, for those of you that might not know. So many people just don't. So, yeah, let's remove the snow from the ramp and everybody can go. So I am not a universal design expert, not in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm going to share with you is the fact that all the things that I've been through in life because there isn't universal design. And some of them are kind of funny stories. So if you as creators of universal design and technology and whatnot, create a better world for us to live in, I wouldn't have so many funny stories. So one of the things, so I work at the Cleveland Site Center, and one of my tasks is to do blindness basics training. So I teach police officers and medical staff and anybody who wants to learn about engaging with somebody who's blind or visually impaired in a better way. And I have the opportunity to put people under blindfold. And I really don't like to, because so many people, when you put them under blindfold, they feel pity for those of us who are blind. And I don't want somebody to have pity, but I do want them to have some empathy. And when they realize the challenges that somebody who's blind, visually impaired goes through, they get it then. It really is an eye-opening experience for them. And it is, life is challenging. There is so much. It's not just going up a ramp or stairs. It's, you go to the bank and the bank has a little kiosk where you have to put your debit card in, even with the teller, but it's a flat screen. So what do I have to do because I can't see any of it? I take my 8-year-old great-granddaughter with me, and I have to secretly tell her the code, and she pushes the buttons for me, and then the teller has to tell her that she has to push whatever color, yellow or green button on it. I can't do any of that. So if it were tactile, it would be great. I could do my own banking, but can't live as independently as I want to. So I have to depend upon an 8-year-old to help me do my banking. If I want to use an ATM, my friend Nancy, oh, by the way, this is my friend Nancy. She is my notes, because I can't see notes. Most people who are speaking to an audience have notes they read. Well, I can't read them, so she's gonna make sure I remember to talk about everything I'm going to talk about. If I go to an ATM machine, they're not accessible, and have to have somebody else to do it for you. Or the ones that are, they speak out loud, and then everybody can hear your information. So that's not very cool. So what else? What else does somebody who's blind, visually impaired do on a daily basis that they encounter because of technology? Navigating buildings, navigating this building, finding a restroom, finding an elevator. I know the building I work in, we renovated about 13 years ago, and there are just some really simple techniques that they did when they renovated. They put rubber matting in front of the restrooms so that even if you don't have a cane, you can feel it with your feet, the transition difference. And so if it was a standard in all buildings, there was rubber matting in front of the restroom door, you would know you were in front of a restroom. Now, you may not know if it's a universal restroom for everyone to use, or men's or ladies, but if they had raised lettering, you know, people say they put Braille. Well, not everybody who's blind, visually impaired knows how to read Braille. And some people may not even be able to know, but have enough usable vision to see the print on there. And not everybody puts men's or women's. Some people put coconuts and bananas as their sign, which one is which? It just simple things like that. It's not tactile raised letters and Braille. We even have geometric shapes, so you know the difference between the men's and the women's. So if there was a standard across all buildings, they did that. People would know, well, I'm at the restroom. Textured carpeting in front of an elevator. But there are so many simple things that you can do. And probably one of the most frustrating is technology. So if you are 30 years, maybe 35, you were probably born with that special tech chip. But those of us that are a little bit older than that, 36, we weren't born with that special tech chip. So takes us a little bit longer to learn that technology. And I never even knew that you could even use a computer till I was almost 50 years old. So, without vision, and learning at that age, it's a lot more difficult to learn JAWS talking software and, or an iPhone. I didn't even have my first phone, which was a flip phone, until my son was 18 years old. Yeah, and iPhones didn't come about until I did not want to learn how to use one, but it is so valuable now, or should I say invaluable, because it does so much. But you still have to have the tech ability to be able to use it. And, you know, even at a grocery store, you pay with credit card, right? You would think something like that would be really easy. All the little credit card machines, they're not all the same. They're not created equal at all. Some you can put some of them you have to slide, some of them you have to put the card in, some of them you tap, but some of them, they make a sound when it's done registering everything. Some of them don't. Some of them want you to give a tip if you're at the coffee shop or somewhere. None of that is accessible. So unless you have somebody helping you, it's not accessible. So it would be so much easier if there was a set way we did everything. And I know universal design is all the rage anymore. Everybody wants to do that, but they seem to forget people, and everybody has abilities. And not everybody has a disability, but we all are different. So we all can do things, but we have to consider everybody when and there isn't going to be one thing that everybody can use. You know, somebody could be really short or somebody could be really tall. So you know, you have to consider everyone's abilities. Bathrooms are a real issue. I did not know until recently. I was doing trainings with all of the Cleveland Public Libraries, and we did all of the trainings at the Ohio Library for the Blind and Disabled building. And all of their bathrooms couldn't figure out how they flush. Well, there's a button on the back of the wall. So who would have known? You know, so something that simple, you know, most toilets flush left or right, but still, who wants to feel around on a toilet, especially a public one, figure out how it flushes? I don't. You know, there's no set standard for anything, and you know, I know you guys are probably all into technology and web designing, but you know, the simple things in life, and just even the universally telling and teaching our children how to engage with others, being accepting, knowing what this white cane stands for. So many people have absolutely no idea, and knowing that everybody who really needs to carry one doesn't, and not everybody who does carry one looks like they're blind or visually impaired. So what else am I missing? Does anybody have any questions? I know we're supposed to probably
here.
questions. Yes.
Hi, my name is Mauricio, and I was curious on your take of the different technologies and the different aspects that already exist. In a way, you know, societies know how to build stuff for inclusivity. They do it well or bad, that's a different story, but there are many things already going on. Which one is something that, despite the technology that is around, you still think that there is a lack of or a gap that needs to be fulfilled at some point, despite the advances on the different, governmental levels or, from infrastructure point of view. Is there anything else that seems to be simple enough that people is not seeing it and becomes a challenge for you?
Wow, infrastructure. Websites, when you said infrastructure, it made me think of streets. And, I'm the reason that South Green and Mayfield now has an APS, audible pedestrian signal at the intersection, because I couldn't cross the street without it. I think all intersections should have them. I think that all intersections should have the truncated domes that, they're supposed to be for people who are blind, but, they get in the way for people who are in wheelchairs. And they're not all created equal. Sometimes if you were to follow the truncated dome, instead of crossing the street, you might end up in the middle of the intersection. So, yeah, infrastructure. Oh, yeah, but I guess they're not going to do it until they're actually working on those particular roads, because that's what they told me. The only reason they did it is because they were working on Mayfield and South Green. So.
Thank you.
And technology has really leveled the playing field for people who are blind, visually impaired to become employed. However, there are still so many places where you need to have an accommodation, and if there was universal design, you wouldn't have to ask for an accommodation. It would just be a given. People will almost always, if there's a sighted person and a blind person going for the same job, they're going to probably go for the person who is sighted because they don't have to accommodate in some fashion.
We've got another question.
Okay,
Hi, Alicia, it's Kayan earlier. Kind of pointing back to your earlier comments around your cane. You said that sometimes there are folks who are visually impaired who do not have a cane. I'm wondering, your take on this. Do you find that is that folks don't necessarily need it, depending on where they are? Or do you find that people are trying to fit into a culture of normal, like this idea of what's normal? And so there's a bit of resistance around kind of being visually impaired, working to appear to be normal, to be sighted.
well, so probably for, I don't know how many years, one of the first things that I learned was orientation and mobility and how to use a cane. But I was ashamed to use my cane because I felt like people who were sighted treated me like an alien. I used to think, well, if I had my cane, I might as well just wear a headband that has two big old googly eyes that say I'm blind, because that's what I felt like. And so there is a huge stigma around using a cane. I had an 85-year-old woman tell me that she would not use a cane because it's not sexy. So, yeah, I know people who have fallen, ran into things, and could have benefited by the use of a cane, but they won't because they feel vulnerable. I have an ex-husband who didn't want me to use my cane because he thought I would be a target. So, but to me, it's my freedom. It's how I navigate. It's my independence. So, and I didn't once upon a time feel confident enough in my own skin as somebody who's blind, visually impaired, that I do now. And I figure it's on you, the sighted person, if you don't accept me because you are afraid of my cane, sometimes I think it has a cobra head or something. If you're afraid of this and you don't accept me because of that, then that's on you. So, I'm not ashamed of it anymore, but I was once upon a time. So, yes, I believe there's a huge stigma still attached to it.
Thank you.
You got another question? Oh, over here, all right.
And that word normal, before your question, it's average. That is normal.
Yeah, and I used air quotes, and I know you weren't able to, but that's why I did that.
Yeah. Somebody said normal to me, well, normal psych, I said, excuse me?
Yeah. That's why I like, that's why I did that, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Candace. You mentioned websites. What could be different for you in regards to websites?
Oh, I rarely go to them unless I absolutely have to. Because, it's like Jen is who I'm gonna talk about now. So this gentleman, smart, one of the smartest men I ever knew. I believe he was a speaker for Better World Day years ago. He, blind from birth and couldn't find his way out of a wet paper bag. However, he could take a broken computer and he could put it back together, and he was completely blind. And he taught assistive technology. He taught this lady how to use a computer. And he said he was ordering his wife blue oysters, and he is so tech savvy. He could do everything, and it took him, I don't know how many steps, and a sighted person, it wouldn't have taken him 5 minutes. And hour in, he gets all the way to the end to pay for it, and it wouldn't allow him to put his card number in. And so he had to call customer service to order his wife the blue oysters he wanted to surprise her with. And so somebody that tech savvy, I was asked one time, my boss said, this was during COVID, one of our board members asked us to do something. So he's on his phone, I'm on my computer at my house on the phone, and we looked up the same website. Didn't take him but 2 minutes to get to, we had to look up just like a sun catcher thing to put in the window, and it never told me what the picture was of. It said it was a bird, but I didn't know if it was a vulture or a penguin or a cardinal. And until like 10 steps in, then it finally told me. But often it's like that, or it could be usable, but not really accessible. You always have to find some workaround or go in and back out again. And, these kids that I said are, 30, 35 years old that are born with that tech chip, they can figure that out. I know we use something called Certify and Paycom at work, and they're nightmares. I just dread every month doing my billing. So, it's not an easy task, websites aren't. Some people, they're much better for, but for a lot of people, no. They just don't do them.
Good question. Well, we've got one more, and then we're gonna get to our panel here. And then obviously, I know Alicia, you have some closing words, so I'm gonna turn it over to the next question.
Hello, Ms. Howerton. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Bonnie Swirsky. I am senior co-chair for the Work in Circles. We thank you for coming, but I also own a grooming salon. So how do you feel about service dogs? Do you think there is any universal design? Is there any way they can technologically help you? Is there any pros or cons? How do you feel about service dogs and how they're being trained? I do many service dogs at my salon, and I'm just curious to see how you feel as opposed to an extension to your cane, give you a little bit more independence.
Well,
How you feel?
I love service animals. I love animals. I love dogs. I've had dogs as pets. I'm right now, for me, I'm too independent and wanna be free. I feel like it would tie me down. Other people, I think they're great for, so, and I may get to that space someday, when I think I've test drove one. And, I kept telling her, no, we need to be this way. She kept telling me, no, we need to be this way. She was right. And I would have taken us into the intersection, so I'm going across the street, so I'm too stubborn yet to learn. They're great. A colleague and friend of mine, she's on her second guide dog, and her first one should be cloned because she was the perfect guide dog. Her second guide dog, I love her, but and so does her owner, but she must not have gotten A's in class. So and sometimes she just wants to be a dog and not working, and when she should be working. There are different ways they train guide dogs, and I forget the names of the schools, but I know the one school where my one colleague gets her dogs from, I like that. It's more friendly training, where the other one, the other school doesn't, and I just think it's more like corporal punishment training. So, but that's my opinion. So, but yeah, I think guide dogs are wonderful, and we do need them, and they do serve a great purpose, and how they could help technologically, that I don't know. Unless you teach them how to use an APS machine, and I don't know, but they can find doors and pianos and chairs and all that kind of thing. So those are very important things.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Do you have any closing words for us before we move to our panel?
Well, one, thank you for letting me rant. And two, just, I know you're probably already mindful of this, but you know, we all, I said it earlier, we all have abilities. And we're all different. Not everybody can climb stairs or be a runner or do cross country. Not everybody does everything. We're all different. And so we're talking about inclusive design. Just be inclusive in accepting people for who they are and where they are and work around that. So thank you. Thank you for helping to even want to make a better world. So thank you.
That's not a lot for listening. Oh, so we're gonna keep you where you are. We're gonna bring up our panelists. And while we're doing that, one thing that stood out to me is I really liked how you talked about that we all have abilities. I think to me that struck home because there's a lot that we make assumptions on, and just keying on the fact that we all have abilities, but we need to make sure we're using them the best we can. So we're gonna keep you up there, Alicia. We're gonna invite our rest of our panelists up here. So when we bring our panelists up, we'll have them take a seat and we'll give them a moment to explain themselves. So we're gonna pass around a microphone and then we'll go through there. So I'm first going to bring up our first panelist, Dr. Keon Hall. Give a nice big round of applause. Come on down. Then we have our next panelist, Jen Holikowski. And our last panelist, Dr. Mauricio Echeverry. Todd, do you have any special words before we jump into our panelists?
No, just an extra thank you again for our panelists for joining us today.
Excellent. So there are two microphones up there. We'll have them pass you down. That way you'll have to fight over two microphones. But first of all, since Mauricio, you have a microphone in your hand, could you just tell us your background and how you think about inclusive design?
Well, thank you for having me today. I have to, let me start with a brief introduction. So Mauricio Echeverri, very good job on the pronunciation. It's not very often that, someone gets it at the first try. So, I am originally from Colombia. I came here 16 years ago for my PhD at the University of Akron in polymer engineering. And I've been working with technology since then. I'm a computer scientist, and a lot of the stuff that I have been doing has been perhaps in that lane of making things better for everyone and ending up being beneficial for, including people into the technology that we were developing. We can go deeper into that later. But I have to say that I am not an expert on inclusivity or universal design. I'm probably the oddball here. I only have two extremes. I'm going to say things that are completely obvious to many of you guys or completely crazy. I have nothing in between. And I think I would be very happy to keep the conversation open and to learn from you guys.
Excellent. Well, we're going to be passing the microphone over to Alicia. And Alicia, I know you already are a keynote, but if you could just tell us what your role is and also what does inclusive design mean to you?
Okay, so my name is Alicia Howerton, and I am the manager of external and government relations at Cleveland Site Center. I've been there for about 15 years. And what does inclusive design mean to me?
Trying to stump you.
I'm like, will it ever exist in my lifetime? I don't know. It means just to include everybody in everything, no matter what we're doing. Yeah, in life, it's not just the design of one thing, it's just, what we teach our kids, be I don't want to be the wallflower, pick me up to play too.
Well, you can hold on to the mic. I think Cam, you've got one right there. So Cam, same thing. Please tell us your background and what inclusive design means to you.
My background, so I'm an assistant professor of higher education at Kent State University, and my work is at the intersection of race and immigration. So a lot of my work is with Black immigrant folks who sit in various immigration statuses. So when I think about inclusivity, I think about who is not in the room. I think about it in the form of my curriculum. So I make certain conscious decisions. For example, do I choose to include an article written by someone who's talking about someone else's lived reality? Or do I include an article written by a person talking about their own lived reality? So I think a lot about my citation practices. For me, inclusive design is, and kind of pointing back to what you said, right? If we all created a design for everyone, then there would be no issue. But creating a design for everyone means that you have to have multiple designs. There's not just one way of doing everything. And we should all make the assumption that there is variation in human existence, and then therefore we have to have multiple approaches. So for me, human design is very, it's taking a humanizing approach, human-centered approach. It's not possible to have inclusive design when people are bracketed out of the conversation. Like you have to design not for people, but alongside people. So that's how I think about inclusive design.
Love that. All right, going to turn it over to you, Jen. You know the question. I can repeat it though. I figured you're going to get me out of that.
Hi, my name is Jen Hotoski. I am Accessibility here located in Cleveland. And we teach accessibility mostly, accessibility tools, mostly to people who have vision impairments. A lot of them have multiple disabilities. So it's finding, what somebody needs in order to access things. It could be things that speak, things that magnify. There's a broad spectrum, and I won't go into all them right now. But I also do, as my work, I'm encountering and trying to assess and fix the things that aren't made with the universal design in mind. So in my mind, whether that's a PDF or a website or software or whatever it is, what universal design is you have a concept for something, right? Whether it is a flyer or, a car or whatever it is. But you have to think beyond yourself, because we do, we're humans, we tend to think about ourselves, our own abilities. If you have something, where you need to do something differently, you will think of that, right? But if you don't, you just don't, or if you don't have it in your lived experience of going to school with people who had different needs or somebody in your family, you just don't think of it. And so really, the work of universal design is getting out there that we are all different and that when you do design something, no matter what it is, you need to stop and think, okay, I can access this, I can use this. But what about that person that's out there this is for that I don't know? And learning about the ways that other people that you may never meet in your life can use it, so that you can still impact them positively. But I can say occasionally, these things, things on the web or in the world are accessible and made with universal design in mind. And when you encounter that and it's the thing you needed, it makes people so happy. And, occasionally like alt text that's not AI generated and says the sun catcher is a bird, but that says, picture of a sun catcher, that's shaped like a flower in a window with the sun shining. Now you've got an idea of what it is, right? And when people encounter things like that, that's so simple, but they think, hey, somebody thought of me, right? It didn't just say, 12895.jpg or something like that, because the screener will tell you that too. So there's a lot about universal design that isn't just thinking about how most people use it, how as many people as possible can use it. And on the other end, for that user, it's about being seen and understood in a way that for most of their lives they're not.
Love it. Well, I'm going to ask one question, and then we're going to see if the audience has a question. But I'm going to start off asking the panel. We'll start down here with Mauricio. So we'd love to know, what do you think nonprofits can do to start assessing whether or not they're inclusive? Are there things they can do with their current programs, services, platforms they should be thinking about? So Alicia, if you mind passing the microphone over to Mauricio, and we'll start with you, and then we'll work our way down.
From my perspective, just look around and see, what kind of people are you working with? Are you being accessible in your own, your own business, in your own, I'm sorry. Are you counting with the voices from people that have different needs in your own organization? And have you, done an effort on looking into how to bring those people in and, get them to share with you their experiences and, how it works? So that would be from kind of like my human side, my fundamental logic. That would be the first thing that I would think about. And I guess the part that I come from, technology, more like tangible stuff. I know many of you guys are, into software, web design, or things more related to, to the software of around us. But start learning yourself about the technologies that are around, that are coming up constantly, that could help people out there. Not only from the perspective of your product, and start connecting the dots from the outside to the inside, and make sure that the inside there is someone that can help you connect the dots that has to go through that situation. That would be my answer for that.
That's very well. We'll pass it over to you, Alicia, to answer the question once again. What can nonprofits or organizations do to assess whether or not their current programs or services are inclusive or not?
What can they do? Repeat the question again?
Sure. So you think about it. So nonprofits.
Mhm.
Nonprofits are generally busy with their mission, trying to fulfill whatever that is. We've got small nonprofits, we've got large nonprofits. What can they do to understand if their platforms are inclusive or not? So that could be platforms, services, programs. Are there things they can do to understand if they're inclusive or not?
Well, there's the, being compliant.
Compliant?
I have umpteen nonprofits swirling in my head right now that we've worked with, and I'm thinking, reach out to each other, find out. I mean, something that simple, just reach out to those that can help you figure it out. So,
Yeah.
if you need to work with somebody that's hearing impaired, I would recommend working with hearing and speech. You need to figure out something that, for the blind and visually impaired, call Cleveland State Center, we could probably help. So, yeah, just working together.
Work together and then compliant, which I think is important. Ken, what do you think?
I mean, as a researcher, naturally, I would advise you to do research. So I would employ qualitative approaches, right? And so you build that into your process. So at every opportunity, you should be collecting data. And it shouldn't be a one-time thing, it should be all the time, right? Because people's needs are gonna shift and what they need today may look different tomorrow. So how can you build in a process where whenever you're encountering people, ask them, like, how did you experience this? Did you feel like you belonged? Was this user friendly? Or some of the challenges you were experiencing? I think that is a key thing. Like, you can never make something better by not knowing what's going on. Like, we can't assume that you know. Like, I think whenever we fall down, that we make the assumption that we can kind of imagine what a person may feel, but that's deeply fraught because we are in our own bodies. And like, I'll give you an example. I grew up in New York City. And so I could probably tell you one or two stops on the train, depending on what line it is, that have an elevator. But I can't tell you every stop on every line that has an elevator that's accessible, right? So for someone who is in a wheelchair or needs an elevator, can you imagine how they have to plan their life around traveling and during using the transit is quite different. So I think that if you try to make decisions about people or try to collect data, you will fail. There's no way that you can be inclusive because you're, again, bracketing out people and who have the lived experiences.
Go ahead.
What was the question? So for nonprofits, so the first thing, Alicia kind of touched on a lot of the work that is what I do. Like reaching out to people, whether it's an agency that specializes in something like your Cleveland Site Center does, or you can talk to somebody who knows what are the accessibility standards, what does five-way compliance mean, you know, how can we make sure that that our website works best for everybody, or we're gonna have a table somewhere. How can we best make sure people can access our literature? You know, almost anything. You know, there are places online you can go. There are a lot of resources online for free. If anybody here is concerned about web things, or if you are a designer, you could take a stop at WC3. That's the web consortium that makes basically the rules of accessibility. And you know, if you're having problems with your website or you just want to learn something, they have a lot there. You can talk with people who can assess it for you and tell you, you know, this is great, this could be adjusted, not to say anything bad, but you know, things like that. There are free tools out there. I would caution you just, you know, like I cautioned, free tools are okay. They will give you a little bit, but they never give you the whole story. They don't give you the how a user is approaching something. Like does the way, like, if you are using a screen reader, does the way that it navigates your page make sense? Like everything may read, but if you go from first name to zip code to some yes, no widget, that doesn't make sense, right? So that's when things technically work, you know, for accessibility, but they're not actually accessible, and that's actually quite common. So there's a lot of free resources out there, but then you know, make a plan too. Like, you know, a lot of times nonprofits, limited budgets, we get it. But prioritize, you know, are you getting users of your website or some other thing that you have who are struggling to use it? Like that should be your highest priority, right? You know, or if it's the doors to your building that people are struggling to get into, then that's your priority, right? So you can't really attack all at once because it's gonna suddenly look very expensive and like a lot of work. Unfortunately, because universal design is being taught now, but there's a lot of people out there doing things that didn't learn that, right? So what we're doing is remediating. Remediating can look like a giant project, a big brick wall. But you reach out to people who know it and we can help you like fix that wall and make it accessible for the future.
I mean, I think you said it really well. I think there's a lot of good points in there. I just was trying to unpack everything people have been saying here. But there's a commonality there about making sure there are people involved. And we're gonna get into some technology questions here in a second, but I wanted to see if anybody had any questions in the audience that have been coming up. We'll let you go ahead and shout it out and I'll repeat it up here.
We're in the middle of deciding to build a new website for our nonprofit. The question is where can we best start to be inclusive?
So are you already working with like a design firm or somebody that's doing it, or you're just thinking?
We're in the middle of getting quotes.
Okay, excellent. So that's perfect. So one thing that you can ask them besides how much for what you're asking is, has your team been trained on 508 compliance? Do they know section?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
It has, like, you could ask the design firm or whoever's doing it. Are your coders aware of and trained in accessibility? So section 508 of the ADA covers most of that. You can also look at European standards, which is the WCAG or WCAG, as it's called, that the W3 consortium does. And if they say, yes, they've gone through that training and we test, then you're already on that. That may be slightly more expensive, but you're on a much better path. Than somebody who's like, what are you talking about? Or, oh, we fix that later if you need it, you know, things like that. And there are, you know, one of the things about design is that you need to, the best way is to bake it in from the beginning. So you can also ask them, okay, we want to make sure that anybody using assistive technology will be able to access this. So what is your process as you design it and implement the code to create these designs to test it? You know, do you have benchmarks for that? Do you have somebody who can do that as you go through? And if they say no, then you can either pull someone like me. or, you know, say, okay, well, how do we make that happen, right? Because you don't want to get to the end and it looks gorgeous. And then somebody like Alicia, who might want that website, is perfect for whatever her need is, now she can access, right? And really, I'm glad you're at the very beginning of the quotes. Because asking them, it's not just their vision of the literal design concept or how they think things can, you know, we'll do these pages and it'll work like this, but it's also, you can ask them, what's your background in this and have you done this before? And you may get a very clear answer from them.
Karen, anything to add?
Yes, so I think for me, inclusive design is probably, it's a multi-tiered or multiple steps. And so what Jen talked about was kind of the technical side of things, right? So thinking about colors, for example, right? Is it being accessible, right? Are things contrasting, not like black on blue, you know, that's not ADA accessible. But I think for me, I think we also have to think about the representation practices of websites, right? And so how they communicate who belongs and who does not belong. So in thinking about that, what kind of imagery are you using, right? How things are positioned. I think those things also have meaning. I think sometimes the absence of also has meaning. And so we have to be really conscientious about those kinds of things. So there's a technical aspect, but for me, I think a lot about the representational practices of websites and what are the messages that are coded in, the images that you pick, how they're positioned, what's forward, what's backward, all those things communicate meaning as well. So I would, that's what I would ask that, yeah.
Yeah. Alicia, anything to add to that?
just make sure it's screen reader friendly.
There you go.
You said screen reader friendly?
Yeah, and whoever, you get, you definitely don't want to have to re-script and retrofit something, you definitely want it from the beginning. Somebody looking at it and making it accessible, not just for a screen reader, but for somebody who uses Zoom text as well. The contrasts and everything, because there is screen reader usage in Zoom text as well.
If it hits the ADA standards, they're pretty good.
Okay.
I don't think I can improve those answers, that's, just listen to what they say, but if I had to do this myself, and it was a concern, for our organization to, make sure that that is the case. One of the cool things about, these kind of communities is that they are there for each other, like, I'm pretty sure if you come to, these ladies here, they will talk about it all the time, and they will probably not even charge you. Make friends with the community, find people, and it will be a great opportunity for you to learn and know someone new, and perhaps, getting people to test your website and, see them in front of you and like, show me what you have to do to go through my website. And that's how you know if they really design it the way that people can access it, or if you could do improvements, but that's my humble opinion.
Can I say one thing more? So if you can email me, I can send you a link to gives you a demonstration of how somebody is using JAWS, and it will really help you have a better understanding of what you need to do. So just email me at ahowerton@clevelandsitecenter.org and I will send it to you.
I will do that. Thank you.
And I've noticed, I've seen some free screen readers. I think it's NVDA, it's one that's out there. So something you might want to look at, because I think the JAWS does, it's license based. Correct.
It's better though.
I know it's better.
Yeah, JAWS are better, MVDA is okay, but again, if you hit the standards, in theory, they should work. That's very rare that it doesn't, because when it's designed to do things to read and be alt text, or the fields are, form fields are labeled and things like that, and you don't get what's called a no keyword count, things like that. It'll work for both, so yeah.
Okay, we got a question. Let's go straight over there.
Hello, I'll use my big girl voice, so you
Okay.
guys can hear me. Hi, my name is Lillian. So I actually happen to be a board member of Signature Health, which is a federally qualified health center here in Cleveland, or the greater Cleveland area. We've covered a lot of places in Ohio. Point is, so I also happen to be a proud Black and Puerto Rican woman. I'm very proud of who I am from. And so, of course, to me, a lot of things that matter to me are mental health, obviously, and minority stories, making sure that minorities are heard, especially in professional spaces where so often we are neglected. And so my question, or not really a question, but I just would love to hear your thoughts on what accessibility looks like when not only considering the physical aspects, but the mental concepts of true human-centered design.
I'll say it's stressful.
It's a fun one, right?
I'll try. Kind of like thinking about your identity, right? And how to start thinking about my identity as a Black immigrant woman myself, right? I think that when I'm looking at things, I don't want to see images or examples of where my Blackness is tokenized or things are culturally appropriated, right? So I think those things cause stress. Those things are draining on my body, and so for me, how can you be intentional about not doing that? Like I think that we've all seen examples. For example, I don't know if you've seen it, but like I think Gucci has done a horrible job at a bunch of I can really cut that part out. Color designer. Like it was a big deal in how they, use kind of like African tribes and to design their products and then upsell it for so much more, right? So I think that those are some of the things that really create discord within a community. So I think thinking about those kinds of things. I think we talk about mental health, right? It's not just that one thing, but it's the fact that you're living in a society where there's a confluence of things that are impacting your life. And sometimes you meet people and you don't know their capacity, where they are. They might just be right here, right? And that's the one thing that sends them over. And so I think that keeping those things in mind is really important. And so I always kind of like playing back to these things cannot be done without people who you're trying to support they have to be in the room, right? Like you can't design for people. People have to inform you of what they want. I think sometimes we have a bad practice of speaking for people, as opposed to allowing people to, like you said, tell their stories, exactly how they want it to be told.
Lucia, it seems like you have a microphone or anything.
Not an answer, but a thought maybe on the whole concept, especially because the mental part is really hard to see, as many of the other, disabilities or whatever people is going through. But I think we have to be also patient and kind and, very aware that it's very difficult for a random person like me to be aware of every single difference or every single sign of, diversity or mental, neurodivergency. That is very difficult to be aware of that. The example that someone used on me one day was actually pretty good, and I don't expect, a random person to know physics and understand the universe to the point where I will feel that people is appreciating how reality works. It's very difficult to expect that, and human complexity can actually be even worse than that. I think we know more about our universe than ourselves, in a way, and I think, being patient with people that have been brought up in different cultures. You mentioned cultural appropriation. Colombians are very happy with people imitating us. Like if you put a sombrero and a poncho and you think you're Colombian, we'll be laughing with you. And cultural backgrounds are different. People react to every of these things in a very different way. You just have to be patient with, most of the people, most of the adults are just a result of what they were taught when they were little. And they have no choice in that. And it's very difficult to change at some point. We have to be patient. We have to be kind and, have the same level of understanding for those people as well.
Good words,
I
Jen?
want to piggyback on
Oh,
his
Lucia
patience.
has more comments.
Patience, you are not born with, nor can you purchase them. And we must have them.
Good
That's all I
point.
want to say.
Well said.
Well said. Jen?
I've been thinking about everything everybody's saying about community and having connections and your pride and all of that. So one thing that happens is a lot of people, especially in, at least where I work, you lose your sight and you may lose your ability to literally use your phone and call your family. That's the connection you're losing potentially, or access information on the web and things like that. Go to school, all the things that you want to do, right? You may not be able to look up events at your local community center or read something at your church, whatever it is, right? Identity is a big part of it. I can tell you that a lot of disabling conditions do not affect people across the board universally. I think we all probably know what I'm saying. And more importantly, access to accessibility is even less, right? And it could be that you live too far away from a city, or it could be what have you. But when you think about access of any kind, right? It's all bridge building, whether it's to the community you're from or a community that maybe is like you newly have say eyesight loss, you want to reach that community. Are there other people experiencing what I'm experiencing, right? And then you might even find in that community, yes, and you know what, they're part of that other community I'm with, because it's all the web. So what I'm saying is like, all of this is a way to reach a broad range of people so that they can maintain those connections and express themselves, whether it's going to work, going to school, or just trying to email a friend. Those are all big deals. Those are all major mental health. It circles back to that big time. There's a lot of isolation before you get or figure out access. A lot of people, the first thing they want to do is call somebody or text them, sending an email. But it sounds really sappy, but it's really true. I've seen people cry because they haven't been able to text their grandkids in, however many years. And it's a big deal. So part of being part of your community is being able to access your community.
Question, good?
Yeah, great answer.
All right, I saw another hand up. Yes.
Hi, so my name is Christina and I work in product design. So my team is building the software, building the websites, and we want to bring people into the, but it's a government program. We can't compensate folks. How do we find users who use assistive tech or have different kinds of experiences outside of our kind of typical group of colleagues and folks that we've talked to before? Where do we find people to bring into the room to do some testing?
What Alicia said earlier about reaching out to the people of your community, that's exactly it. So you could contact me, or you could contact the site center, or if you want to make sure that the audio description in something works, and somebody with mobility challenges use a product, whatever your thing is. Look up who's available and then ask if they're willing to volunteer. Not everybody will, right? But a lot of people will because they know that their feedback is going to help others. So, it's a little bit hard sometimes when you're asking for time, but you can always ask. And we all probably know like a lot of the people you're looking for. So it's worth a try to ask. And but just go out to the community. Because they want your thing, whatever that is, to work for them also.
I get focus groups together often for medical, whomever. I get focus groups together all the time. A lot of our clients are willing. So that's part of what I do at the agency.
So you've got a connection now.
I think I would also add that a part of your community is also higher education. And so there are a lot of faculty members and researchers that are doing work around disability and neurodivergence. And so connecting with them is a great way, right? Because they also have networks, you have students, you have staff, you have faculty also. It's a great way to also get folks beyond like the folks that you're already working alongside.
I would wish you.
No, I have no idea. I have a few friends that I can ask them, but I think their answers are probably the most useful.
Good one. Any other questions from audience? I do have some more. I want to make sure we're out there. All right, so don't forget we're going to be having our tour of the Interactive Media Lab here shortly, but I still want to keep going. So one thing that I know is probably the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. I heard somebody mention earlier, AI. Right?
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So what are some trends in inclusive design that nonprofits should be paying attention to? Is it AI or is it something else? Because we're hearing a lot about that, and just so we brace ourselves so we know what we should be thinking about or expecting.
I think AI has a lot of potential. I do. However, who created it? Humans.
So it's getting there, but there's a lot of accessibility, especially for the technical, because that is what I represent. There's a lot of things out there that say they will do something, like there's AI generated alt text that's almost always wrong, right? Or it's like 80% wrong, right? There are companies out there, and I won't say their names, but instead of making your website accessible, they kind of overlay it and force it to be accessible. I've actually tested some of those sites before and after, and they were less accessible, right? Or it's an AI driven, tester for your workflow, to use in your workflow as you design a new website. They use these, they're tools, but they aren't the end thing. The person always is the end thing, right? Just like, there's a lot of, in the creative world right now, is it art if AI made it, even though I put the creative input, or if I, that's a good question, but in the end, there's no replacing the human ever of asking people and getting that. Do I hope that it, meshes things together so that maybe one day Alicia can say, hey phone, how are you today? And it says, hey Alicia, just to let you know, you've got this on your and it's that easy without all the swipes and taps and the memorization. I would love it. Would absolutely love it. We're not there. It's not that smart yet. So that's something maybe for the future. But for now, like, don't over rely on it to do the heavy lifting of design for everybody. Because it just can't, it's not.
Any other trends we should be paying attention to, Kate?
I don't think I can position to answer this question, but
Yeah, we can. Maybe a little bit, not less, but very important part of software and how you connect your software with everyone else. But also be aware that AI and all these new technologies also have external factors that are going to be very, very pervasive in a very short future. Wearables is one of those things that is going to be unbelievably important. For example, like the smart glasses are, those kind of technologies will change a lot of things, because perhaps the website is not going to be perfect, but you're going to have a glass telling you in your ear what exactly you're looking to the screen right now. Or the design on the street is terrible, but instead of that, you have guidance on your ear through the lenses of your system. I saw this technology that I'm dying to share with you guys because it was unbelievable. Maybe you already know it, but to me it was super eye-opening. This professor came out with a vest, that had a bunch of different vibration areas on your body. And what the vest will do is that it will, through AI, assign patterns of vibration on your torso based on the sounds that are around you. So a person with auditive issues, instead of hearing with their ears, will be hearing with their skin, right? And it counts with the plasticity of the brain, with the AI that is sufficiently powerful to do such a thing. And to me, that's like one of the most interesting and creative ways of seeing, using the plasticity of the brain, the external factors, hardware, software, AI. And I really think that's going to be also part of how all the communities will connect with the rest of the world.
Well said. Anything to add?
It is ultimately my goal, and a lot of people in my think that we don't have a job. Because everything is so accessible and has come so far that you don't need to learn. And that, honestly, that's the dream, but.
Yeah. I wanted to also add one element on the AI thing, and is the other perspective that I can offer is you don't want AI and all these things to create a bigger gap, a larger gap between people that can afford it and people that cannot. I always think about all the technologies that are happening here and how fast they are going, and knowing that 60% of the Colombian population will never even see any of these things in their lifetime, because it's going to take a long time to be available for them through governmental programs or to whatever it is. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but it's one of the AI is one of those things that will hopefully permeate a little bit better through through the access to the internet, but it's something that keeps me awake sometimes.
definitely, the cost. AI is wonderful. I own Meta glasses and they have come in handy many times. Especially being dropped off, transportation is the biggest barrier for somebody who's blind, visually impaired. And being dropped off by a lift, at, 2 doors further east than you need to be and you're at the wrong place. Where am I supposed to be? Well, Meta glasses comes in handy. Not everybody can afford them. 73% of the blind population is unemployed. You said 60% in Colombia, and that's just the blind population. So AI is great, but a lot of people can't afford it or afford the Wi-Fi to be connected to it or anything like that. So.
Tech is expensive.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that through the ages, the consumerism, eventually it comes down and like you said, it could be a while. I wanted to check one last time if we had any questions from the audience. I did have another one underneath my sleeve to close things out, but I wanted to check. I don't want to leave anyone off the grid. So for me, thinking about this, we talked a lot about tonight about reaching out, volunteers, community, technology, following compliance. I can go down the list of all my notes that I'm taking up here. But what I'm interested in is, to each of you, I would like to know, and we'll start with Jen over here. What does success look like when inclusive design is implemented well?
You don't need me.
So it's your,
It could be that
it's
you don't
gone.
need me. Or, it could be that somebody goes to a place and, the button for the middle circle actually works because it's been maintained and, success is somebody passing through whatever you're offering,
Mhm.
whether it's reading your site or going through a door or accessing something, and it doesn't hinder them, it doesn't cause them stress, it just happens. Just like, if you can open a door physically without issue, you don't think about it. And so what you really want is a user experience like that. They come to the door, they open it, whatever that door is, and they pass on getting what they need from you or gaining access to what it is. It shouldn't be a stressful situation or one where somebody can't get to their destination, whether it's access to services, education, job. Success is that they just go do it, like somebody who doesn't have the challenge that they face.
And you answered the second part of my question, which is how do they measure it? So I think you talked about that too, so yes, thank you. Go down to Kate.
Everything they said. But,
Same answer across the board, easy enough.
Right, but, perhaps what I would add is to understand that there is not, when you think about inclusive design, there's not a point of arrival. I think as human beings, it is probably second nature for us to check things off a list. I mean, I love a good list, okay? But this is not something that you can check off. It's a continual process, right? You have to continually be learning, continually be collecting data, continually asking questions. So to me, I think that's an example of the successful practices, right? That could then lead to success, But I think the minute you believe that there's a point of arrival and now this is an inclusive design, is the minute you inadvertently marginalize the same community that you tried to help out initially. So that would be my 2 cents.
Alicia?
How do you measure success for universal design? Jen said it so well, just teaching from the beginning to be inclusive and accepting. That's it. And in everything you do, it doesn't matter if it's customer service or a website or anything. It's just, being inclusive and accepting, be patient and kind. Yeah, just asking, what are someone's needs and how do you support them? Yeah, that's success.
Love it.
It's a better world, Dave, right?
That's right. Mauricio?
Well, few thoughts, some of them, I don't know how this is gonna go, but success to me is to the point where, the differences or the, underlooked communities or the underlooked needs become a completely different, way of seeing the world. Like, I'll give you an example. The one problem of accessibility in for example South America and the Andean region, no one in the world has ever developed massive techniques of mountain development of agriculture. Everything is designed for the flatlands of United States, for the flatlands of Europe. Very few massive things. I actually had the opportunity to talk to someone, John Deere, about this. And he was like, I've never thought about this. And of course, I mean, if you come here and see everywhere is flat. So no one talks about those kind of things. I think success is when we start talking about those more, underappreciated situations around the world. That's my first thought. It will be complicated to explain, but the second one I think is tied to what I said in the past, where first, government and society at the same time are committed to make these things part of the DNA of the society, where the things that are needed to be part of of an inclusive society are coming from legislature and the society itself. That is a very important mean. And the moment that I can say that the poorest farmer down in Colombia that has a blind child has access to Meta glasses and he is able to go the 2 miles and he still has to walk to school by himself. That I think will smell like success a little bit to me.
Good thoughts.
One more thing.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
please.
think also, pointing back to my comment initially, I talked about my citation practices, like as a researcher, but I think also as you all develop things, like think about who you're working with. Like, who are you choosing to work with and patronize? I think that's also another example of including people, right? Like opportunities to have folks who maybe are visually impaired help on a project or purchase something that they're selling. I think that's a really great way to also be inclusive.
Well, I couldn't thank everyone up here, panelists. Everyone can give a nice big round of applause to our panelists. Incredible. Really, thank you. We're going to be doing our interactive media lab tour here shortly. I'd like to call Todd back up for just one quick second because we did want to thank everyone that helped out today. And I did have a slide up here earlier that I passed over, so I wanted to go back to it. And I wanted to bring it up on the screen because we wanted to make sure everybody that helped put this together today, we had a lot of volunteers, we had a lot of people, a lot of supporters, our panelists, but everyone that helped chip in. I mean, this is a full teamwork. Once again, we wouldn't be able to get to 9 years doing this without everyone's help here. So Todd, any final words before we head over to our tour?
Yes, just one name that we weren't able to put up because this was someone we met this evening. You have a card from Lauren, who is the coordinator here at this facility, that this space is available, or spaces like this. They do a significant discount for nonprofits that have events like this in the evening. So if you're curious to learn more about those options, Lauren asked us to have you reach out to her with the cards that we passed out today. And it would be helpful.
I'm going to stay on the microphone. Also, isn't there an event coming up for KON next week you want to talk about?
Yeah, Can, on October 22nd, you want to share that?
Hello. So this, you have a pamphlet that talks about the Design Innovative Hub at Kent State. And this summer, I was one of the faculty fellows. And my project is titled The Quiet Holds Us. And my first story in the series is with Chini, an artist, talking about migration and being a Black immigrants. And so the question is, like, how do we move toward a aesthetic of quiet? What does it look like to lead a quiet life? I think oftentimes we confuse or conflate quiet with silence, and they're two separate things. But thinking about Blackness is often done in a very like public way and deeply entangled with protest and political aim. And so what would it look like in these stories, for these series of stories? What does quiet look like? And so my first story is Chimney, and it's next Tuesday at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Kent State. So it's FREE. So please show up if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, do you have finalists? Anything else?
I guess one other thing, if any of the panelists have any resources or websites that you recommend, we want to mention to all attendees that will be compiling that and also have that available on the website at www.betterworldday.org.
That's right. So once again, we are up to the point where we're going to be having an interactive media lab tour from the Food Institute of Art. Mr. Greg Slady is back there, who's going to be guiding us. So if you're interested, we do have a sign-up sheet. So we'd like you to, if you want to go for the lab tour, please sign up on the sheet. We're going to give a couple minutes for you to sign up, and we're going to head over there. Please feel free to stay here as long as you, until 8 o'clock, we've got the room. And maybe not all night, but you can definitely hang out. And we wanted to thank you again. And we'll put up a survey if you'd like us, any improvements. Yeah, I'm throwing things out at our panelists. If there's anything.
That's part of the improv?
It is a part of the improv, don't forget, not in this harmonic. And if you have any, if you'd like to provide feedback, we do have a QR code up on the screen. We'll also send a survey out afterwards as well. But please sign up for the tour. Thank you.